what Alan Greenspan is saying, so we could substitute him, just get 2 parrots. See, when you say lower taxes, and why do they want to lower taxes? Because presumably lower taxes will put more spending in the hands of the public, so now they'll go out and spend. But some people correctly say that by removing taxes, they want to allow businessmen to deduct luncheons. Every time they say lower taxes, which will stimulate the economy, what are they saying? It was the taxes that impeded the economy. So in order to create the economy. Now, to prove that America has probably one of the worst economies in the world is that we're the world's biggest debtor nation. We owe more, the government owes more in debt. And the people of this country, our national debt is greater than the debt of all the other countries combined. Now, in 1943, when the Second World War broke out, we were still a major creditor nation. We were a creditor nation. How can you tell if a nation is successful? Well, if it produces more than it consumes. When it produces more than it consumes, it creates an extra credit, which you then invest. You can invest in other countries, and then when the returns on those foreign investments come back, you have the people in that country share in what they produce and the returns on their foreign investments, so their standard of living goes up. Suppose you continually have a deficit like we've had, a trade deficit. Now, a trade deficit builds up and we have to pay interest on this deficit. So now the people have to always have less, because now we've got to pay interest on what we borrowed before. And last year, our trade deficit went up 100 billion. The year before 100 billion was 340 billion last year. Now, only a couple of weeks ago, I heard on the news that they reported that America, you might have heard this too, American workers work longer than the workers of any other industrial country. Did you hear that? Okay, now ask yourself, how could we have a successful and a great economy if we work longer than the people in any other industrial nation? If we had a successful economy, we'd work fewer hours. They even said we work longer hours than the average Japanese worker. And, I think before the war they probably work at least 6 days a week, if not 7. So, this great economy, we work longer than the workers of any other industrialized nation. Then they said, in Europe it's not uncommon for their workers to have 4 and 6 weeks vacations. How many people ever had a 6-week vacation? I don't think, maybe I had a 2-week vacation somewhere, I don't even remember it. But certainly 4 weeks? And this is common. So, but not only do the Japanese work fewer hours, but their wives don't work. And they have longer life expectancies. Americans are the most gullible people I think that God ever created. They are told that they believe they have this great economy, even when they work longer than anybody else. They have no savings. They have to go around the world and see if they can get goods and services that they never produced. And they're told we have this great... Now, we used to have a great economy. We used to. I remember the days that if somebody had a watch that didn't work, you'd say, where was it made? In Japan? Oh, yeah, when the Second World War was over, you know how many automobile factories we... Does the word Plymouth mean anything to anybody? Have you seen a Plymouth lately? How about a Studebaker? Would you believe I had a DeSoto? You see the old Groucho Marx show? He was his sponsor. Look at we had Packard, that's the man who owns one. Packard, DeSoto, Terraplane, Hudson, American Motors, Studebaker, where'd they all go? Disappeared. They're taxed out of existence and regulated out of existence. Probably when the war ended, Japan probably just was making grass cutters and motorcycles. We have a Council of Economic Advisors, which was created in 1946, right after the war. See, oh, you know what was the maximum amount that we spent during the height of the Second World War with 10 million men under arms? 80 billion. 80 to 85. We didn't even hit 100 billion. Now they're saying, I heard this morning, the cost to clean up the debris in New York is about around 10 billion. And then to replace it is around 11 billion. So that destruction would, but there's a good side to this. That'll increase the gross national product by 21 billion. Now that's a ludicrous statistics. The American public has been taught to believe that gross national product is some significant figure. It merely shows you how hard, it means nothing. Because the gross national product will go up by 21 billion and we have nothing more that we didn't have before. There's one thing that the gross national product doesn't put a dollar figure. What do you think the average American values more than anything else? Anybody want to? What does the average American value more than anything else? What? No, I'm talking about, no. See, you don't know, but I'm going to tell you. And the minute I tell you, you're going to agree. He values leisure. Well, he wants to retire. He wants to go to the beach. He wants to go fishing if he'd like to. He wants time off, right? But that doesn't have a dollar value. If we all took a 4-week vacation, the GNP would go down, even as we're enjoying ourselves, running around the beach, lying in a hammock, making love, playing with your kids. But the government wants you out there buying goods, buying and selling, trading. Why? Because why do you think everything is, people aren't trading now? All of a sudden they're watching television. So what's so terrible about that? Instead of going to the movie, they're watching television. Frankly, if they're not going to the movies, they got the money. So why is it important that we go out and spend our money? Because if we don't spend it, the government is not taxing anything. So the government is dying for, it's like they're dying of thirst. They got to get you out there spending. If you don't spend, they don't collect taxes. The mere fact that, why should you have to spend? You know, my kids are grown up. I'm at the age where I don't have to buy anything for the rest of my life. You know, how many pairs of shoes do I need? How many I rarely buy anything anymore because I have all the personal things I'm ever going to need. Why is it important? After you accumulate a certain amount of stuff, you can stop buying. Well, but the government doesn't want that. They got to get out there, buy. Okay, so all of these figures, I'm going to just show you what's been happening to our country. These figures come from a publication called EIRF. It's put out by, what's his name? I'll think of his name. Lyndon LaRouche. They put out some good statistics. I don't go along with his solution, so I don't want you to think that I go along. But anyway, this shows you the stock market as far as 1999. It's probably you can see the stock market here. Now, the stock market is totally unrealistic. If you've been listening to my programs for the last year or two, and especially when I've interviewed my son Peter, we've told you it's a mania. What's it? No, I'm not looking at their exhibits. No, these are just, here's the stock market going up like this. It's up here. Now, what does the stock market reflect? It merely reflects the dollar value that we agree that something is worth. Suppose I paid $250 for the suit and $25 for the tie, so my clothing right now costs me $250. Suppose we all say, well, Irwin, let's agree it's worth $500. Okay, it's worth $500. No, let's agree it's worth $1,000. All the stock market is the prices that we attach to the factories that are already here. We just agree they're worth more. Let's agree they're worth 3 times what they were worth last year. Okay. So everybody thinks they have all this wealth, but the wealth hasn't changed. The factories are still there, regardless of what the price is. Think of looking in a store where you see, you see cameras in the windows, VCRs, all the products. And now the manager goes through and lowers all the prices 50%. The cameras are still there. They're the same cameras. You haven't created any wealth or reduced anything. You just reduced prices. That's what the stock market is. Frankly, the stock market would be more realistically priced if it got down to where it was priced at the beginning of the Gulf War, which was about $2,500. The stock market didn't even hit 1,000 until sometimes after President Kennedy. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. The people are being conned into thinking that the stock market is some indication of Now, if you want to see what's happening to this country, let me just show you some statistics. These are real statistics. U.S. debt per household. In 1959, it appeared like it was 1,000. Now, if you got the New Haven Railroad,